Hello, everyone. I'm Swagata Upreti, and I'm a group product manager at Walmart. I have been helping build large footprint products across a variety of domains and companies for more than 10 years now. This talk is going to be about a fundamental transformation that's happened to the world around us and its impact on product managers, especially those in retail. Retail is ubiquitous. It's around us in several forms across so many facets of life. It's also an area that's been very largely impacted by the advent of modern tech and communication to the point of major disruption. Working in organizations and on applications that are on the cutting edge of this transformation exposes a product manager to unique challenges and experiences. I hope to walk you through some of the patterns and nuances and leave you with a greater appreciation for this area. And maybe get you a little bit ready for the chance that life throws you an opportunity in this space. So let's move on to the agenda. So I quickly wanted to go over what the structure is going to be, so you can decide if this is going to be useful for you. I'll talk a little bit about what led to the omnichannel world in retail. Then I'll go over how this usually manifests for the customer and as application spaces. We'll talk about particularly important bits for the PM in this world, go over metrics and tracking, our favorite topic, and conclude with some lessons I learned with my time in this area. So what is omnichannel? Let's start with that. Omnichannel is retail with blurred boundaries between physical and digital. In the last 2 decades, we have seen the rise of e-commerce, general economic prosperity, and shifting consumer preferences towards things like immersive experiences, convenience, time saving. Both digital businesses without physical presence and physical businesses surprised by the disruption started looking for ways to offset what they lacked and what the other was good at. It was easy to open up a second channel. Physical stores opening up a .com site and digitally native brands opening up a store. But marrying the experiences together was interesting. And this opened up some unique opportunities. In today's pandemic world, there are even greater acceleration pressures than ever before for businesses to adapt to these demands and challenges. We're going to talk a little bit about the usual avatars here. We'll talk about some omni-channel experiences, which have become table stakes expectations for most customers these days. While these may seem more applicable for physical stores that are expanding on the digital front, the same expectations are also present for digitally native brands wanting to open a physical store. The first one is click and collect, that I've listed here. Our shoppers want instant gratification. Businesses appreciate having any kind of face time with the customer. Traditional e-commerce's biggest pain point, if you think about it, was delay in delivery, and traditional stores made it much harder to find a specific item. Now, all this comes together with cost saving in, you guessed it right, click and collect. An order is placed online where research and narrowing down are easier. It's ready for pickup in a nearby store within minutes or hours. There are several flavors of the pickup: curbside, in-store, lockers, drive-through. This adds convenience and time saving for the customers and savings on delivery cost for the business. A win-win for both sides. What else do we want? Moving on to the last mile delivery. Many customers desire service till their door, sometimes as a convenience, but often due to nature of the item purchased, like perishables, food. With the development of services that allow crowdsourcing last mile delivery, this has become more accessible to businesses. The cost is still, in majority of the cases, passed on to the customer. The next on the list is endless aisle. Customers who cannot find inventory in store for items that the businesses sell, either due to running out of stock or due to not having a variant, can make a sale on these items and prevent disappointing the customer uh, through fulfillment from another location, which is usually a fulfillment center for their online assortment. Some digitally native brands also adopt this for their physical location, where the purchase decision is following a tryout. It allows them to operate with a similar store footprint and limited replication cost. In-store apps. This is a very interesting area. Detecting a customer's presence in a physical store based on geofence presents an opportunity to solve several issues with the traditional store. Customers in a hurry can be navigated to the right aisles, presented relevant coupons, helped with checkout, given additional info about the product, helped with comparison of prices or products, led to ingredients or tools for a specific goal, or given any kind of support that they are seeking. So, what does this mean for a PM? You can see that there are additional PM skills that are listed here. As my team worked on multiple omnichannel applications, I realized we had to broaden our skills in several areas, and that made a significant impact to how well we were able to do our jobs. Some areas of productions and operations management, some extra empathy for actors and experiences, especially introduced in this context. And most important of all, like thinking about not just the product, but an ecosystem that had a wide span. And I'm going to discuss some of this in detail. Let's start with queues. Queues start showing up everywhere. And while the complexity of most software queues are hidden behind technology sophistication, with omnichannel, people become intertwined in them. Long queues are really bad for experience. Efficient queue processing is critical for the associate workflows to be humming. Explicit product management consideration for making the queues short, fair, and moving goes a long way. We even did things like making the time in the queue engaging with gamified features or promotions. Forecasting. Unlike a server farm with a pure tech application, which these days is pretty much elastic in its scaling, most omnichannel flows have staffing requirements. And getting the forecasting right is the biggest contributor to customer satisfaction, both from an ability to meet demand perspective and on the experience front. Inventory. Inventory systems that are integrated for multi-channel drain are a big investment upfront, especially for businesses that are not building omni ground up. Say an item got sold online. Now you cannot have a store associate sell the same item to a walk-in customer, right? So keeping real inventory counts handy becomes more challenging in the omni-channel world. And you have to keep an eye out for this. Moving on to people. This is the most important point to keep in mind. Having people disrupt the control a PM has over a digital experience is a very stark thing. On a website, every customer gets the same experience and it can be relied upon to be consistent, almost always. With store associates in the mix, we bring in a dynamism. The quality of the experience a customer will have is dependent on the person interacting with them. And customers will remember the impact of human interaction much more than a digital interaction. Think about your past experience in a store. So, special care should be taken as a PM to design for maximum consistency. Tools have to be built for associates that are intuitive, self-training, that have guardrails and prompts built in, especially in an early wage job situation, which is frequent in omnichannel flows. One has to design the application for hedging against churns, things like shift changes. Another people angle is the transition between digital and physical, bringing up needs like identity checking. Special attention is needed on making this seamless. No one wants to pull out a state issued ID card for a grocery run, right? In order to engage associates in omnichannel flows, there's sometimes a need for store devices like tablets or handhelds. A PM should think holistically about software updates to them, uh, troubleshooting, support, and be aware that they are sometimes miles away from IT support. The general breadth of PM in an omnichannel context widens. So it's important to talk about this aspect. To think about assets, especially for traditional stores going digital, do not underestimate the effort or cost required to have things like digital assets, images, copy, reviews, videos ready for scaling. Not just from the bootstrap point of view, but ongoing. Omnichannel also opens up more integration points. The area in general is so wide that specialized services, B2B, are popping up for every aspect. A retailer is likely to have a partner for replication or last mile delivery, or even application hosting or shipment tracking. PMs have to wear extra hats to think about these integrations, keeping them seamless and decoupled. Cross functionality. If you think about a PM's role as one of the mini CEOs, which we all do, Omnichannel brings in a lot more cross functionality. You are dealing with more people systems, more reviews, more legal scrutiny, more operations, more partnerships, more coordination, more of everything. Have a strategy for being very organized in this increased chaos. Moving on to metrics. I have found a few metrics very critical. The fill rate is a basic measure of how much of the expected basket was fulfilled. You might also want to track the temporal, how quickly. Fast and as expected is good. NPS is one way to get some metrics on the qualitative. But here's something that's sometimes overlooked. Keep a close tab on bottom lines. You do not want your cost overshooting your revenues unless you are very sure about it. It's easy to run up larger costs with people involvements, partners, store space cost. And lastly, don't forget to track every queue in your system for all the queue metrics and build in relief for non-performing queues straight out of the door. I will now wrap up with some lessons from my career. The very first being start small and aim for impact as you build foundational strength. This is important for any kind of product management, especially for omnichannel retail. Make things simple for store associates, make them intuitive. Training and guardrails go a long way. Make customer identification simpler, and proximity triggers can make a big difference to customer experiences. When we think about the handhelds, have over the air update for store devices or handhelds. Have inventory buffers for walk-ins. Also, don't surprise the customer with late notification of issues. If there is an issue, let the customer know as soon as you know about it. Build observability of queues and mitigation strategies. And always allow time for resolving cross-functional complexities. Have that buffer built in. Also think about the legal aspects, privacy, compliance, fraud, very early when you are designing your product. Don't keep it for the last moment. You are surely going to have surprises otherwise. So thank you very much for your time. I hope I was able to throw some light on an interesting world